This is Fearless Rebel Radio, a podcast about body positivity, self-worth, anti-dieting, and feminism. I am your host, Summer Inanen, a professionally trained coach specializing in body image, self-worth, and confidence, and the best-selling author of Body Image Remix. If you're ready to break free of societal standards and stop living behind the number on your scale, then you have come to the right place. Welcome to the show. This is part 2 of episode 176, and I'm back talking to two incredible women whose stories I'm so excited to share with you. These are two of my clients that work with me during the You on Fire program, and you can find all the links mentioned in this episode at summerinanen.com/176. First, I want to give a shout out to Nurse McKeck, who wrote this awesome review. The messages of this podcast are so important and needed. Thank you for the work that you do. You change lives and make the world a better place. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. You can leave a review by going to iTunes, click ratings and reviews, and click to leave a review. You can also support this podcast by subscribing to it via whatever podcast app you use. That takes 2 seconds to do, and it's really appreciated. Okay, we are going to dive right into this episode. This is the second part of episode 176. So if you haven't listened to the first part, definitely check out the first part. It'll be the episode prior to this one that came out a week ago. And if you are really, really tuned into this podcast, you would notice that at the beginning of last episode, I said I was talking to 3 people and then only shared 2 interviews. And that's because I had to rearrange things kind of abruptly and on the fly. And I had already recorded that intro. And just in the name of imperfection, I just left it as is because I figured if people notice, they'll just notice, oh, there were only 2 and that's okay. She said 3. Not a big deal. So anyways, just so you know, podcasting can be a lot of work. And sometimes I just give my best B+ work instead of an A++. And that's a reference to something Shirin Eskandandi said that really stuck with me about when we were talking about kind of letting go of perfectionism and things like that in the episode that she was on a couple of episodes ago. I think it was episode 173. I'm going to say 173. Anyways, that's an awesome one that you want to check out. It's about finding your purpose outside of dieting. So without further ado, we'll get into this episode. And I am talking to 2 more people. I'm talking to Christina and Nicole, both who did the You on Fire program. Nicole did it back in 2017, but she really wanted to come and share her story this time around, which is I love doing because I love seeing where people are years down the road, because this isn't something that's just like, okay, we work together for 3 months and then that's it. It's like, I love to know where people are. I love to know the long lasting impact that it's had and share that as part of this process, because it's not just like a short term thing. This is really an investment in, a lot of tools and stuff that are going to help you through a lot of stuff. So through a lot of things that will pop up in your life. Anytime you have self-doubt, anytime you have fear, you can rely on the tools that I teach in this program and the support that you get from the group, because you're always a member of it. So You on Fire is a 12-week group online coaching program that gives you a step-by-step way of building up your self-worth beyond your jean size, with personalized coaching from me and lifetime access to the program so you can get free from body shame and live life on your own terms. I talked more about it in the previous episode, so you can listen to that. I won't reiterate any of those things there. If you're interested, go to summerinanen.com/You on Fire and get in the next class that's going to be starting soon, or get on the wait list for the next cycle. And you can always go to the link that's in the show notes for this particular episode, or not in the show notes, rather, I mean to say the podcast information. So if you're listening to this on, let's say the Apple Podcast app, if you click on the episode, you'll see there's a description of what the episode is about. And there's a link in there that will take you to the show notes, which will then have links to everything else. Okay, let's get started. So first I am talking to Christina. And Christina had struggled with dieting for years, and she was really new to the anti-dieting journey. She had just stopped dieting in January, and she was really enjoying the process of healing her relationship with food, but still really struggled with the body image piece and her changing body. And I'm so glad that she ended up doing this program, because it's just been such an honor working with her. And I was really, really astounded to hear just some of the the impact that it's had on her life, and how she was able to kind of overcome a lot of the struggles that she's been having. So I can't wait for you to hear her story. This is Christina's story.
Hey, Christina, welcome to the show.
Hey, Summer, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. Why don't you tell everyone just a little bit about who you are?
Okay, well, I'm a baby comic. I started stand-up comedy in like October 2019. I'm also a new podcast host, co-host of the podcast Are You Awake? And I also work my job where I make money is I work for a nonprofit organization as a medical office assistant and a mental health worker on Vancouver's downtown east side, where we really promote like harm reduction and supportive housing. So
yeah, cool, amazing, like so much awesome stuff that you do. That's really meaningful.
Thanks.
Yeah. So tell everyone just a little bit about the frustrations that you had, or the struggles that you had with your body before we started working together.
Oh my gosh. So I started working with you after I had recently stopped dieting. And I think I was realizing really quickly that even though I was like experiencing all this joy from, just eating whatever the heck I wanted, I just realized that there was a lot of body image stuff getting in the way for me, really having a hard time coping with like wearing larger clothes than I had before. And I just could tell there was a huge piece of the puzzle missing. And I was like, okay, I need someone to support me and help me work through this.
Yeah, that's awesome. And well, not awesome that you were having those struggles, but awesome that you realized you wanted support. That's awesome. So, what was there anything in particular that happened that made you decide, okay, this is something I want to work on. Like, this is something that needs to come into place in my life.
And I think, so it was funny. I remember, there's a, Facebook group I'm a part of, and I reached out and I was like, does anybody have a recommendation to help, like on a book to help with like binge eating? Because I thought I was addicted to food and all of this. And someone said, oh, I think you should read The Fuck It Diet by Carolyn Dooner. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I read her book and I thought, oh my gosh, like I've been living a lie. All my life, what I thought was up is down. And then after reading Carolyn's book, I started listening to her podcast, and then I heard you on her podcast. And something that you said that just really spoke to me was that you were like, it's not about loving everything about your body. It's just like finding this acceptance and then being able to do more with your life by like feeling worthy. So
yeah, cool. That's awesome. I'm so glad you found me there. We are aligned in that way.
Yeah.
And so before you dove into this work, like, did you have any fears or hesitations about accepting your body?
Hugely. Yeah. I think I would say a year before I started doing this, I knew I was going to have to change something with like my very like restrictive eating habits and extreme dieting, just because everything I was doing, I felt like was built on this foundation of trying to be as thin as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what were you hesitant about, or what were you fearful of?
It was fear about like how large my body could become and what that would mean socially. That was a really big fear of mine. A fear of losing control, not having value or respect amongst others, because I came to this realization too that I was like, I'm only 27, but at the same time I was like, I feel like I'm getting older, and I feel like so much of what has been communicated to me is like, as long as I can be thin and pretty, then I'll be a success. But I'm like, if I'm aging, then society's construct of what is pretty will fade rapidly. And then I was like, well, what am I going to do?
Yeah, totally. And I'm glad that awareness outweighed the fears that you had about going through this process. I think that that's a huge piece of what needs to happen to really move through the fear. And all that fear is just the narrative of diet culture. You know, what we've learned. We've learned that we can't trust ourselves, that we'll be out of control if we're not actively trying to be thinner and all this other bullshit. And so, yeah, really great that you were able to sort of have the foresight of like, okay, I'm going to age out of this anyways.
Yeah.
And so great that you did it so young. I mean, the majority of people that come to me are generally, you know, a little bit older and are coming to the realization like later in life, not like late in life, but, you know, like kind of a few years after you. So that's really, really brave and really great. So what were some of the things that really helped you to move forward?
Like, so I would say specifically from You on Fire, I think we did like the doppelganger exercise. And so realizing that all the like shoulding too in my brain and all these negative thoughts constantly swirling in my brain, like just realizing that it's a tool that I've been using to protect myself and that, okay, it's not really working anymore. And to just like be able to recognize that was huge. Values, like just actually putting a name to what my values are was, oh man, that was really transformative because now in life, when there's certain things that come up, I can kind of like refer to it and go, oh, this is why I suddenly feel very threatened or angry or excited about, I don't know, whatever's going on. And then also too, at the end of the program, the visualization exercise was just like so fun. It was such a treat. It was really cool because basically it's the visualization exercise where it's like you are seeing yourself like, what was it? Something like 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the future. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In the future. And yeah, just to like see myself in the future, especially going back to like aging and stuff, like seeing myself older and like thinking like, oh, like she's pretty cool. Like I really like older me, the older me I envision.
Which is really the essence of you now.
Oh, thank you.
Well, it is true. That is the point of it. Oh, that's really cool. A lot of you loved that one this time around, which was really good.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, all the things you mentioned, I think are so fundamental towards changing your beliefs and having a better, like a solid knowing and understanding of like who you really are and what's important to you in your life, and that it's not about the size of your body.
Yeah. Oh, also, I was going to say too, what I really like about the program is the like private Facebook group where we get to share like what we're going through with each module. Because for me, it's like so important to feel like seen, heard, validated. And I was just like, okay, here are these people that I've never met before, but like, look at us. Like I can relate to so many things somebody else is expressing. And yeah, that was really, really huge too.
Yeah, the community aspect is really big. I think like via the calls in the Facebook group that you get to really know each other and know that you're not alone. And it adds like a really big supportive element, I think, that makes it so much easier to do the work than kind of operating on your own and still having a lot of the influence of diet culture around you. It can feel kind of isolating, I think.
Totally. And even listening in on the calls, it's just like, yeah, that's hugely impactful too. And also, sorry, one more thing, the mirror work that you did with me, I felt like that was some of the hardest stuff I had to work through. But I think it probably was the most transformative because it was just like, you know, I didn't want to look at myself and how I had changed. So yeah.
Yeah, you were really brave in like letting yourself to feel the feelings and that came up around that to come to a, you know, more compassionate place and see yourself and normalize the way that you see yourself so that you're not looking in the mirror and kind of seeing and being like, who is that?
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. And so what are some of the things that you've noticed about how you feel in your body or about your body since doing the program?
Something I think is huge is I don't really care what my pant size is now. I'm frustrated if my size changes because like I had expressed to you in the program, I was like, I just want to stay the same size for a couple months. Like, I don't want to be shopping all the time. But like, to me, it's just a number, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I'll just find a pair of pants that fit, and like, oh, surprise, they'll actually look really good on me. What else? Like, this is more like my mind, but I would say like there was a week where something just shifted, and like I've been diagnosed with like depression and anxiety, and like I just all of a sudden wasn't feeling depressed. I'm anxious still, but but like I just like now feel like even when I sense like a lower mood coming on, I'm like, oh, okay, what's the reason behind this? Like, like I'm gonna explore how I'm feeling and wonder why, and then I'm gonna take the time to take care of myself. That's been huge because I get overwhelmed really easily, and now it's like I have this foresight to be like, oh, okay, I see the storm that's brewing. I'm just going to take a second and reassess, and then I'll come back, you know?
Wow. That's really massive too. That's like a pretty profound impact on your mental health to know that you felt that kind of profound shift, and then to not be so overwhelmed by those feelings anymore.
Yeah, it's been huge. And even something I noticed the other day was that I was having like a really bad body image day, and I was like, oh, okay, what's going on? I was like, oh, I feel out of control right now. Why do I feel out of control? And then I listed the reasons for it, and I was like, oh, okay. So that's why I feel like diet culture wanting to crawl back right now. But then I just get angry and I'm like, F off, and I'll like bake a cake or something.
That's always a good solution. I like it. And so were there any other like highlight moments for you?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just can't express like the joy I feel to feel like I'm no longer like super depressed all the time. And I think a highlight too is really like the outcome of just feeling like very, very capable. I've always had so much self-doubt, but now like even looking back on like when I was like dieting and stuff, I mean, I even had a doctor like technically diagnose me with anorexia at one point, gave me a referral, and I completely ignored it. But to come from a point where I was like that, so in denial, and then look at what I did accomplish in that time, I'm like, oh, I'm actually a really strong, really resilient person, because I did all these things. I went through all these things, and I was malnourished the entire time. So now I just feel like, oh, I'm actually feeding myself. So like I don't really feel like there's that much that's going to stop me. Like I'm going to find a way to do what I want to do.
That's amazing. That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, and you can tell me if you want to share this or not, but I know like more recently, one of the things that stands out to me as an experience that you had was when you went away with your friends and you like just didn't give a shit. Like you thought you were going to give a shit, and then you came back and you were like, and I just didn't give a shit. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was huge. Yeah. So I went on a camping trip with like, some people I didn't know, also like primarily people in very thin bodies, and I was feeling intimidated, and I just really took the weekend as a way of like, okay, I'm going to do exactly what I want. And so what I did was like, everyone was hanging out together, but I had a floaty and we were at a lake. And so I just went out on the floaty for 5 hours by myself, and people were like, Christina, are you okay? And I was like, oh, I'm fantastic right now. And like, it was a really great experience because I felt like in turn that people were like respecting where I was at. And I like was thankful that they actually were checking in, but it also just felt really great to be like, yeah, well, this is what I want to do, and it's not hurting anybody. So I'm just going to enjoy myself on a floaty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're really advocating for your needs without, compromising them to sort of like fit in or have, to like have people like you more or whatever, even though I'm sure none of that would have even happened. Like none of Like, I'm sure they didn't care that you wrote on your floaty anyways.
Yeah. The funniest part though is like everybody got sunburnt and I'm like pale as can be, and I came back and they were like, "You're not burnt," even though I had been out on the water for so long. So
that is quite shocking. Yeah.
Sunscreen.
Whatever sunscreen you used, you need to like be a spokesperson for it.
Yeah, wine drop.
That's awesome. So how does all that feel? Like, how does it feel to, you know, be in this place now?
I mean, it feels really, really good. I feel so much more in control, in the sense of like, I feel like too, I've understood that like through this program, sort of like that there's a lot of things like outside of our control, but it's sort of like, well, how do we take care of ourselves in the meantime to deal with that? I feel like that's been huge because, you know, also when I was dieting, I was reading so many self-help books because I was like, there's something fundamentally wrong with me because, you know, I can't stick to this diet or that diet. And if I can't stick to a diet, well, then I mean, how do I think I can get ahead anywhere in my life or whatever? And then, yeah, now to be at a place where it's like, wow, that's all bullshit. It's just, I never thought I would feel this way, you know, even when I had my like fantasy of being like thin and perfect, I would say probably I didn't imagine it to feel as good as I do now.
Wow. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Are there any like words to describe those feelings?
Excited, emboldened, and like silly, because I find I care less and less about what people think.
Amazing. And that's got to be helpful for your stand-up career.
Yeah. Definitely.
Those three things actually would probably be very essential for being a good comic.
Yeah. Definitely help.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. What's one piece of advice you have for people listening?
Oh man, if you choose to do this work, it's really, really hard. And I know like what I've been saying is I'm like, oh, I'm so happy things have changed, but like it is such a process. And even though I'm at this stage where I do feel so much better than I did before, like it's always ongoing. It's not like, you know, it's not like, oh, great, did this program and everything's solved. It's like, oh, did this program. Now I have the tools to help me, you know, go through life and deal with my diet culture brain. And also, like, if you're listening, like, I would just say you're so capable of doing anything you want to do. And I'd like encourage you to do this work just because it's like, I'll say it's like the most transformative thing I've done for myself. Yeah, thank you so much, Summer. Like, I'm going to tear up. Oh, God.
Me too.
but yeah, no, seriously. It's just like, you know, like it's like I go to therapy too, and I've just found your coaching like so intrinsic and supplemental because it's just like a beautiful guide of like kind of going like, okay, like, here are these like roadblocks in my way, and like there's a way around them, or you can smash through them, you know. Yeah.
Do you remember our sponsor from a few episodes ago, See Rose Go? Well, they are back because they loved you, my dear listeners. See Rose Go is a plus-size fashion brand that offers beautiful design and quality and is offered exclusively in sizes 14 through to 28. And here is the exciting news. See Rose Go has cool designs, literally, with cooling, innovative fabric that they invented. Lord knows I need that. Their cotton-based fabric pulls moisture away from the body into the air so you can keep cool and dry. Their designs are chic, versatile, and comfortable for working from home and beyond. Check them out at crosego.com and use promo code podcast to get $20 off your first purchase. That's SEEROSEGO.com and use the code podcast to save $20.
You've been awesome through this whole thing. I know it was hard. There were some really hard moments, and like, you've overcome a lot because you're newer to this. Like, you had just sort of, quit dieting at the beginning of the year. It wasn't like you'd been working on this for a long time. And so, like, I just really admire your persistence and like the fact that you trusted this process through all those moments when it just felt really, really hard. And that you were just so open to receiving the guidance that might have been kind of weird or woo-woo or whatever, but
Oh, yeah, I love that stuff.
just roll with me. And yeah, it's just amazing to see where you've come. And like, I'm just so excited to see where this will continue to take you as you like have these tools and have these new endeavors that you're focusing on in your life. Just so great.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what's to come.
Yeah. What's your podcast about? What's it called and what's it about again?
Okay, well, it's called Are You Awake? The Slumber Party Podcast, because my friend Becky and I, we were like, oh, if we're going to do extra work, like, we might as well be in our PJs. And so my friend Becky, she lives in Australia, and basically we're just having conversations like revolving around self-care, social justice, and just the concept is that these are all discussions that you'd have really late at night at a slumber party. So yeah, we're really excited about it. We're releasing actually our trailer the day this episode comes out. So if anybody wants, you can subscribe anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And then our official release date for the first episode is going to be October 5th.
Amazing. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see what you put together. That's awesome. Great. I know how much work goes into a podcast, so.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, just thanks so much for having me on, and thanks for having me in the course. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. It's just been awesome.
Yeah.
Rock on.
That was so amazing. I really, really enjoyed catching up with Christina there. And I didn't realize how big of an impact this had on her. And so I'm just really, really proud of how far she's come. And it just means the world to me to hear that and to see what a huge difference this can make in somebody's life when we do this work to accept ourselves, our whole selves, and know that we don't need to let our body size dictate our emotions. I said emotions kind of funny there. Okay, next up we have Nicole. And as I mentioned at the beginning, Nicole did this program back in April 2017. And she did it right before her wedding, so 4 months before her wedding, which is usually when people go on a diet and set out to lose weight. But Nicole knew that wasn't the answer. And I'm so proud of her for doing this at that time, because I feel like that's like a really tough time to say, you know what, I'm not going to diet going into this. Major props to her. And so cool to see where she is at with everything now and how much of an impact this has had in her life, even 3 years later, and the impact that is still happening as a result of the work that we did together years ago. This is Nicole's story.
Hello, Nicole. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Thanks for being here. Why don't you start out by telling your listeners, I guess they're your listeners too, telling everyone just a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you live.
I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota with my husband and our 2 dogs. I'm a graphic designer for a fitness club company.
Yeah, that's great. And why don't you share just a little bit about, what your struggles were with your body before we started working together?
Well, I was never thin enough, and I always hated my butt. I was always so self-conscious of it. And I remember talking with you about it because I did the program right before my wedding, and I was nervous about standing up in front of everybody with my white dress on. And so that was a big deal for me.
And how did that impact your life, like in terms of, having those negative thoughts?
Well, I think it was just always there. I was constantly thinking that I wasn't thin enough and I didn't look good enough. I compared myself in my head, like to my friends, and cuter. She has a cuter outfit and she's thinner. And, it just was a constant thing in my head.
Yeah. And so what made you decide that you wanted to work on that and to change that?
Well, I come from an eating disorder history. I dealt with binge eating for as long as I can remember. But I also, now looking back, I also dealt with dieting as long as I can remember. I tried so many different diets, every diet, and was like starting every Sunday kind of a thing. And in 2002, I started studying nutrition. And then in 2007, I was diagnosed with MS. So then I was obsessed with nutrition and health, and I was trying to stay healthy because of my MS. But I secretly was like wanting to lose weight. It was kind of I wanted both, but I was like never telling anybody about the weight loss part. It was always like, if I did lose weight, it was kind of it's just a nice side effect of all the healthy, nutritious stuff I'm doing, And then, fast forward years and years and years, and I discovered podcasts, and I started listening to a bunch of different podcasts. I was obsessed with talking about it and listening about it, learning about it. Like, it was always just in the forefront of my mind, always. And I heard you on another podcast. I was thinking the other day, I was trying to figure out what it was, and I can't remember, but I remember hearing you, and I like what you said. And I remember hearing you on another podcast, like, a little while later, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's that same woman. So I wrote your name down and looked you up, and I was so happy to see that you had your own podcast. So I started listening to that, and just everything you said, I was like, I want that. I think I said already that I just always wanted a healthy relationship with food, and I dealt with binging, but the body image part of it was such a huge part of it for me. And just, I wanted to get past all of that. It was so frustrating for it to be such a priority to me, but then I was always feeling crummy about myself. And so then a program came up, and it was going to start 4 months before my wedding. And I was scared to start something like that because I was nervous to not be actively trying to lose weight before my wedding, because that's what you do.
Yeah, I was going to say, most people sign up for a diet program, but you did it the other way, which is amazing.
Yeah. And I remember you saying, oh, what a wonderful gift for yourself. And at the time, I remember I said, yeah, but I was still like, am I doing the right thing? And even though what you were saying, I wanted so desperately, but I just didn't know if the timing was right. But, with dieting, you want it now, everything you want now. So then, of course, then I was like, well, I want this now. And I started it. I took a leap of faith and started the program in April of 2017. And here I am 3.5 years later.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we'll get to 3.5 years later and what that means for you now. But I'm curious to know, just kind of taking a step back, especially knowing this was before your wedding, like, what fears and hesitations did you have about accepting your body?
I was trying to think about that, and I don't think that I necessarily had fears. It was just that I didn't think it was possible. You're in the mindset of, you need to be thin, I need to lose weight, always, and then it's so hard to shift that thinking, and so for me, I was like, I don't think that's even possible. I thought I had tried doing stuff before, but it was always under the guise of wanting to lose weight. So then it was like, well, I'm trying to be healthy, and I should be able to be, changing my view of food or whatever it is, or my body. And it just didn't seem possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And so tell me about some of the things that really helped you move forward in this process.
I remember cleaning out my closet was a big thing. And the doppelganger exercise was good. Just separating the thoughts from me, and remembering, like, I remember thinking, well, I had taken a different class years ago, and it was kind of about like your heart versus your ego, like how you're leading your life. And so this doppelganger exercise kind of reminded me of that. And it was like kind of separating the two, like it's my ego that's wanting this or that, or my inner critic, and just learning to separate the two. That was really helpful. And I had a little creature I found online, and I cut him out and had him hanging like on my desk and on my wall, just as a reminder.
I love it.
And then adding positive body things to my Instagram feed was a huge thing too. It was like, even now, actually just recently, some things are coming up that I don't feel like I ever clicked on to follow, but I look at them and I'm like, I don't think I would ever have clicked on that, but maybe I did at one point, and it's like some slim woman running through a beach or whatever, and I'm like, no, so then I unfollow that, and just to change your view of things, it's amazing how much that really helps.
Yeah. Yeah. And the things you mentioned, like cleaning out your closet, changing your social media feed, like those are so essential in this process. And they're the things that like feed the voice of our inner critic. So all of those elements work together to help you like, rewire your way of thinking.
Absolutely.
And was there anything else you wanted to mention there?
No, the calls were helpful too. Yeah, I mean, just the whole program in general, but those are the few things that really stood out to me.
Yeah, totally. And what are some of the specific things you've noticed about how you feel in your body since doing the program?
I'm a lot more content and less anxiety. I mean, I've told people that I bet half of my anxiety is gone since I did this program, because so much of it was focused on, what's wrong with me and how can I fix it? And I can, of course that's going to cause anxiety. So there's a lot less anxiety throughout my physical body. And then I know I put a lot less pressure on myself. My husband says that I'm much more laid back than I used to be.
Nice.
And in general, I would say I just feel indifferent. Like I don't think about it. There's, once in a while there's like, I'm not really a big fan of this outfit, or something I'm feeling kind of bloated today or something, but I actually have words to fill that space versus quote fat. I don't feel quote fat. I feel bloated, or I'm sore from this, or, that's generally more that kind of thing.
Yeah. You're able to tune into your actual physical and emotional feelings instead of using the language that diet culture teaches us to refer to our bodies.
Exactly. Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's so great. And I mean, that's huge. Just feeling indifferent, I think is so liberating. I mean, it kind of sounds like, okay, feeling indifferent, but it really is liberating when.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily sound like a positive word, but it's like, for me to get to this point is, like I said at the beginning, I didn't think this was even possible. And for me to feel indifferent about my body after, 30 years of dieting or whatever, it's like crazy to actually think that that's how I am now.
It's amazing. It's really amazing, because I do remember some of our work together, like specifically around photos and some of the events that you had leading up to your wedding being really, really tough on you. So to hear you say that now is just like, it's so amazing. And I think, that's what it is. It's like an absence of the negative is a feeling of indifference, but that is so powerful. Yeah. What were some of the highlight moments for you?
Well, after the program, feel like not having such complicated orders at restaurants.
Yes.
Because I was doing stuff that was like healthy and nutritious, quote unquote. And so with my MS, I was eliminating so many things. So I had so much, and I was kind of self-conscious about it too at the time, like when I was with friends and stuff, because I wonder, like, are they thinking that I'm being dumb or, whatever. And then now I just go in and order, cheeseburger, fries, whatever. And that's it. I don't worry about anybody thinking anything about it, or it's just so like laid back. It's just, I just order what's on the menu instead of worrying about eliminating this, that, or the other thing. And then eating eliminated foods in public, like I said, I was nervous about it in front of my family and friends because they always thought of me as the quote healthy person. So it felt strange for a long time, but now I don't even think about it. My favorite thing about this after I did the program, and I feel like I maybe made a post on Facebook about it, but has been my playing with my wardrobe. Like I have been having so much fun with the clothes that I'm buying and wearing. Like I finally feel comfortable in the style that I like, and then I can go buy things that I love versus it just fits me or it looks quote unquote flattering on me. In other words, it makes me look thin. I had so many things in my closet that were stuff that I just kind of liked. And now I've been having a ton of fun with jewelry and clothes and stuff that I actually really like a lot, you know.
Awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. Amazing. And I feel like you shared some pictures of some bikinis that you bought. And I know obviously your trip was canceled because that was a few months ago, but that was also something that I remember about you doing. And I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, my swimming suit. And I'm still looking forward to wearing it. I still have it. So hopefully someday I can do it.
Yeah, hopefully someday you can do that Hawaii trip, right? And so how do all those feel for you?
Amazing. You know, it's completely different. It's a huge load off. And I just, like I said, I don't think about all this stuff anymore. It's just life.
Yeah. So good. And like, I'm just curious, was the wedding better because as a result, like, do you feel like, did you go into it and be like, I don't regret that I did this work for the wedding? Or I'm just curious. I know that was so long ago, so I don't even know if you can remember it, but.
Well, I actually had a little like scare because of my wedding dress. It was like a tad small when I ordered it. So then there was all this panic about it, but it was, you know, that at the time was like, that was my diet mindset. Like I had to get the smaller size because it was the smaller size. So, aside from that chaos, it was great. You know, I think that doing the work beforehand, helped me to feel just more comfortable in front of everybody, and just the day, you know, I felt more relaxed, I think, versus like, I'm kind of a nervous person anyway. And I feel like I'm less of that now, because I'm not so self-conscious of myself.
Oh, that's so good. I'm really, really proud of you. And so what's one piece of advice you'd like to give to other people going through a similar experience?
I think you should do this program.
Well, thank you.
I sincerely think that it has changed my life. I am such a different person, and my life feels almost more fulfilled now because I'm not thinking about diet all the time or just nutrition and food. And, you know, we make our grocery list and I go to the grocery store and I don't look at calories. I don't look at anything. I just buy what we want. And, you know, we buy fruits and vegetables and sweets and all the stuff. Like, it's not like we just are that I'm just limited to certain things. So it overflows into other pieces of your life, I think. Like, you know, it's not just the nutrition stuff. You're more confident and you're more, you feel better in yourself. And I think it comes out in other places too. It's definitely worth every second and every penny. It's a great investment.
Thank you so much. That was I'm really grateful for you taking the time to do this. Is there anything else that you want to add?
I don't think so, other than I truly thank you, Summer. I honestly, like, I think so often I think, like, I wish that you only knew how different my life is now. I'm so thankful that I found your program.
Oh, thank you. That means everything to me. Thank you so much. I'm so thankful you did too. And I'm so grateful that that you stuck with it. I know it was tough in the beginning. I know there were, a lot of hard moments, especially with with having the impending wedding and sort of thinking about how that day is going to be if you're not, actively trying to lose weight. And so I really admire your bravery in that. And I admire, your courage to stick with it and to fight, continue to fight. You'd fought a lot overcoming your eating disorder, but to continue to fight to get to this place here, I'm just really, really proud of you. And so, be proud of all your hard work and everything that you put into it, because clearly it's paid off. And I'm just so happy to hear that everything feels more fulfilling for you now.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nicole. Rock on.
What I find so amazing about Nicole is that she really didn't believe it was going to be possible for her to accept her body. And for her to get to a point where, she says that she just feels indifferent about it now is just phenomenal. And that's really what I want. I think I try to make that super clear. I feel like I make that super clear. The goal is not to love your body. The goal is not to be able to look in the mirror and think, oh man, I'm so hot. because then we're just hinging our emotions on our appearance. We're still hinging the way we feel about ourselves on some external measure, and that being our appearance. And I don't want that for us. I want us to know and believe that we're good enough regardless of our appearance. I want us to accept our whole selves, knowing that we're not perfect, knowing that we're made up of parts of ourselves that we don't like, parts of ourselves we're neutral about, and parts of ourselves that we feel good about. And hopefully that's a bit of a sense of relief, because it takes the pressure off, and that you don't need to, love your body. We don't need another expectation on ourselves. You don't hear our cultures telling men that they need to love their body. It just doesn't happen because their worthiness has never been connected to that, and their desirability has never been something that has dictated like their status in this world. And so I don't want that for us either. We want to fight against that, and to really liberate ourselves. We want to get to a point where we believe and know we're good enough regardless of how we look. So the fact that Nicole said I feel indifferent about my body, I'm like, perfect. Like, that's awesome. That's exactly what I want. Just indifference. That's so freeing. And I hope you enjoyed listening to those stories. I just love sharing them because they're just people like you. Not that like I'm a different person because I'm a coach, but sometimes I feel like when we hear stories from people who are professionals in this world, we feel like they're a little bit different than us for some reason, or because they really invest all their time and energy in speaking about this, it becomes easier to sort of talk to believe these things themselves, which I think there probably is an element of as well. But I really like to share stories of just, people like yourselves that have done this work and have gotten to a place where they're just not thinking about their body so much anymore, and they have that sense of freedom and liberation and can focus on other things in their life, and they have reclaimed that mental and emotional space. I've been running You on Fire for over 4 years now, and every year I'm blown away by the participants and the work that they put in and the struggles that they overcome, and the fact that they trust the process and trust me as their coach in this process. And I just love catching up and seeing where people are at, and also hearing people be real about the fact that it is a hard process. It's not just like a one and done thing, that it takes a lot of intention, a lot of practice, and it is something that you will then have the tools for going forward for the rest of your life. If you are interested in that, I would love to do this with you. You can find all the information at summerinanin.com/you on fire, and you can find video interviews from this podcast at summerinanin.com/176, as well as I've recorded so many of these episodes now. You can find all of them on my YouTube channel. You can find them also at summerinanin.com/134 or summerinanin.com/164, episodes 164, 134. And there's a whole bunch of others. I don't want to overwhelm you, but those are the more recent ones. And hopefully that gives you inspiration that it really is possible for you too. And if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out, direct message me, chat with me about it. I want to make sure that you're getting supported. And thank you so much for listening today. I really, really appreciate it. This is actually, I probably should have said this up front. Oh, sometimes I'm a little disorganized. This is the end of the season. This is the end of season. I don't even know what season we're on. Season 5, I think. Oh man. This is the end of season 5 of the podcast. So podcast will be back in October. I've got some awesome interviews lined up. They've already been recorded and they're ready to go. But I'm just taking the next few weeks off just to have a bit of a hiatus and break in between the two seasons. So get caught up on the other 174 episodes that you have maybe not listened to, except maybe like the first, 80, because I feel like I've evolved a lot since then. But maybe you like those old ones too. I don't know. But I will be back in a few weeks with the new season. Until then, thank you again so much for listening. Rock on. I'm Summer Inanin, and I want to thank you for listening today. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Summer Inanin. If you haven't yet, go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this show. I would be so grateful. Until next time, rock on.